It's great to be here.
So there's this shooting range up in Oklahoma. They're going to serve alcohol there. How do they get away with doing that? I mean, by all accounts, alcohol and guns are not a very good mix.
Well, from what I've read on that story is that they do intend on keeping the two separate. Apparently, they have computer checks, and they actually have some sort of wristband access provision where you can only go to the range and then go to the bar, if you want to call it, and not vice versa. And in fact, apparently when you first enter the premises, they give you a wristband. The wristband allows you to go in the range. You go, you shoot your guns, et cetera, et cetera. You then, they log you in the computer. You then leave the range, go to the bar. They remove your wristband, thus preventing you from re-entering the range, and serve you beers, and then you leave. So obviously, without, in keeping the two separate, there really should be no issue because, there's no law preventing you from throwing back a six-pack and going to the range yourself. And like I said, this business appears to have taken precautions to make sure that people who do consume alcohol, at least on their premises, will not be able to enter or re-enter the range area.
And it's smart that they're taking these precautions. I will tell you, I'm from New York. Boy, they hate guns up north. But my father belongs to an Orvis hunting club. I always laugh because they go stock the fields with pheasant and all kinds of stuff. And I always tease them. They say, Mr. Stinchfield, you ready? Here comes one. And then they throw one out there for him. And you can, but
that does seem to take a little to sporting activity.
They don't really do that. I make fun of him that's how they do it. They stock the fields with it though, and then they eat the pheasant after they catch them or shoot them. But here's the thing. At this Orvis Club, they have a beautiful restaurant there. You go in, you can order wine, you can order a little whiskey, you can sit by the fire, smoke a cigar. Then you can go out, you can shoot some trap. I mean, they got alcohol and guns all over the place.
Yes. Well, the thing is that the media is, they're obsessed with, of course, I guess the inflammatory nature of saying any story that includes both guns and alcohol. Apparently, the only time guns and alcohol mix is whenever you allow them to be regulated by a single organization, like the ATF.
Right.
So that's going to be the story. But the thing is that it's really not a story at all. In fact, listening to your introduction, in which your introduction is just like I've seen this story portrayed on the media the whole time, is that the TABC. Their proposal was actually, if you look at the language of their proposal was really kind of an anti-gun show proposal. And in fact, if it would have passed, it would have acted much, much to the detriment of the gun show industry here in Texas. In fact, I saw a recent article where the MDA, the Mothers Demand Action, this anti-gun group in Everytown, that Bloomberg organization, they're patting themselves on the back, saying, look what a great job we did here in Texas, a great victory. They're not going to allow alcohol at gun shows, in which if they would have read the rule, it looks like a rule they would have written and they would have wanted proposed. Because right now under the current rule, this new rule would have supplanted an old rule. So this is not a new activity.
So explain it to why exactly you say that. What's the actual rule that would have been in favor of anti-gun folks?
Okay, currently it says the current rule, the rule as it's been for years and years and years, as it exists, it says that premises that are licensed for consumption of alcoholic beverage on premises, they are allowed to have gun shows if they suspend service, it's a service of alcoholic beverages during all points of the gun show, set up, during the go, and take down. Okay, so it already says that in the rule. What this new rule would have said is it would have said that a license holder that is licensed for on-premises consumption can allow a gun show or allow firearms to be displayed. And then they had all these requirements. The guns had to be disabled. You could not sell ammunition. You couldn't allow there were some other very onerous rules, which would basically have meant and which nobody's going to go.
If alcohol was served, right? Is that
no? That's the catch. The new rule, as it said, it applied to all licensed premises, regardless of whether or not alcohol was sold.
Oh, wow. Well, there you
So
go.
that's
You
why
know,
I'm
they
saying,
they jump on this, oh, guns and alcohol and this and that. You know, the bottom line is you go to a gun show, nobody's firing guns. I don't even think they
no.
have bullets at the tables that I go to when I'm looking at guns. They're none of them are loaded. Nobody's shooting them around. You could be totally wasted, and it would probably be the safest place to be around guns.
Yes. Well, that's why this new rule. That's why the anti-gun folks, like I said, if they would have paid attention to detail, which they rarely do, if they would have read the rule, they would have realized that right now. Let's take a convention center. They've got a premises they got a permit that sells alcohol. The only rule currently in effect is you're allowed to have a gun show if you don't serve alcohol. Okay? So this new rule would have said, basically, if you have a gun, because you have a license, regardless of whether or not you're going to permit alcohol to be sold at a particular event, just the fact you have a license meant that you had to put all of these onerous regulations into effect just to have a gun show. So basically, whether or not alcohol is sold would have meant that practically gun shows would have not been able to go into effect, because nobody's going to go to a gun show where all the guns have to be disassembled and you're not even allowed to transact. They said under the rules that if you bought a gun at one of these gun shows, you could buy it, but it had to be turned over to you. It had to be delivered to you off premises.
Yeah, that's crazy. Look, what most folks don't understand is the people that are going to these gun shows are really diehard sportsmen and women. They're the most responsible gun owners of anybody. Now, I understand we have some irresponsible gun owners out there, and typically it's the uninformed folks who shouldn't have had guns in the first place and got their guns, not going through the proper channels. But the people that do and that are sportsmen, they're very responsible with their guns. You don't have to worry about the folks going to gun shows.
Absolutely. And I've been to dozens and dozens and dozens of gun shows all across the state of Texas, and I have never, ever once heard anybody say, God dang it, this sure would be a lot better if I could get a beer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, I'll bet you there's somebody saying it because, look, there's a lot of folks out there who just like to drink beer no matter where they are. But anyway.
Well, and you're right. In your introduction, I have heard that this is all the fault of the Dallas Safari Club, and they wanted to be able to serve wine at some of their functions. And that's the only reason that this was even brought up. Because to a man and a woman, uniformly, everybody involved in the gun show industry and gun enthusiasts who like to go to gun shows, they were all against it 100%.
Yep, interesting. Hey, Attorney Edwin Walker with Texas Law Shield, helping folks out, protecting themselves and their rights and gun owners. We appreciate you coming on.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'd love to come back anytime.